We are live, people. This is definitely a Friday night, and this isn't where I expected to be, but there is a reason for this. So we'll explain, and I gotta put eh, whatever. We're here. We'll be right back. Hey, we are back, and I'm still a little discombobulated here, but and I want to grab something here because you need to know our topic here so that it's here. I don't know if you night timers have had a chance to see, and no, we don't have anybody here, but that's okay. I just want to put this little message here so that people understand that when they start calling me and saying, "Hey, what's going on?" We did post it, and
Yeah.
so yeah. Until further notice, we're keeping it real and honest here. And yes, Houston, we have a problem. And the good thing is well, let me backtrack here a little bit. Um, Okay, so a couple weeks ago, we were going to have a topic. It was going to be about the being in a rut and everything. And then last week, Brian had some family stuff or stuff he had to do, and so we weren't here last week. Okay, but then moving forward, I really think things happen the way they do, and I don't know if that's how you believe, Brian, but in my world, I think things fall or evolve the way they need to, and this situation is no different than anything else. Is that um, we had a situation where um, it was like it, it's one thing when you go through something yourself, but then when you see a an outer experience happening, and welcome to the people that are watching right now, but we had a situation that just went over my limits, and unfortunately I have a bad habit of not speaking what's the problem, and I did that, so I have to own up the fact that I just spewed over to Brian all the things that bothered me or were upsetting me and things that were going on behind the scenes. And so then we had a different situation going on, and I'm trying to build a network here. And
Mhm.
so today's show, when you watch today's show, I was very discombobulated, very unprofessional. I was very upset, and I didn't smile, and I didn't smile much. I had a really hard time. And then what's really weird is that the topic that we had, being in the rut, was allowed me to say a lot of things that I was feeling, and that
Mhm.
I've through the shows in the past. When you watch our shows on YouTube, you're going to see that I was throwing those jabs at Brian, and we're going to get back into that sometime here in the future. But what I want to say about all this is that we had some misunderstandings, miscommunications, and things that are personal to me that affect me, not affect him, but it affects how I conduct myself. And
Mhm.
one thing is that I do know Brian has a good heart and he's humble and all that stuff. But when Brian doesn't acknowledge me the way I acknowledge him, it
Right.
finally got to a point where I couldn't take a lot of things with us, and we cut down our shows, and we just need a break. And there was a lot of things that I'm sure Brian's going to go back and look at the other videos and see where I was upset, and I waited a very long time to tell him how I
Mhm.
felt about things. And so that's my fault. That's on me. However, looking at the big picture, I'm just grateful that we did spend time talking today.
Mhm.
The next few times when I do my personal show, I will be talking about these on my perspective. I think Brian's going to do his perspective on what we discussed, but we did have behind the scene transparency. We've had issues between us that neither one of us were addressing, and that
Mhm.
need time. I finally took the last straw, and I was really upset, and I didn't want to do a show with Brian because if Brian's going to be, online with me, if he's going to do something and not respect me, I mean, he can speak for himself, but
Right.
I appreciate Brian because he could have said, "Well, screw you, Lynn. I don't want this drama," or not even hear my side. But I want to, before I get into all of that, or you thinking I'm bashing him, I just need to say that you're going to need to see the back end of what we're talking about. But the bottom line is, it takes two people to actually be open to speak about what is bothering you for you to go forward. So I talked for 5 minutes, Brian. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
No,
You got it.
I mean, there's no blame or excuses here. It's going to be that kind of space because what we talked about after the show was literally 3.25 hours or 3.5 hours, and it was we got very personal about things, right? And it's like when you're teaming up with somebody and you're creating something, you don't, in the day to day when you're coming up with content, you don't realize how you affect that person, right? You don't realize how much they're giving of themselves to making sure that the tech is right and they allocate the time. And that's where the selflessness needs to come in. You know, you're the master of the StreamYard, right? The graphics, the Canva, right? And I don't know, that's not my wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
But it was like, the only thing I've ever wanted to be was a humble person, a caring person, a loving person, given my background. And that hasn't been emphasized.
Yeah.
That hasn't been shared. That hasn't been communicated. I felt it, but just like me going to therapy, my therapist has been working on me for the past 3+ years to open up more as a human being,
Right.
emotionally. And that is something that is a stigma that males have. I'm not making any excuses, but it's not the easiest. And it was such a great place to be in today after we talked about things that it's like we have to let everybody know what's really going on and really be real and raw. I think to blame and point the finger and whatnot does absolutely no good, and it tarnishes relationships. It tarnishes what we created. I mean, thanks to Ken for the Grow Live Academy. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be here, right?
Right.
And so when we look at the backstory, it's like, at the beginning of what was it, last year, right?
Yep.
Last
Yep.
year,
Yep. The end of last
January
year.
1,
Yep. We started.
and it's like that. I remember you reached out to me and you're like, hey, you're somebody I think I need to get to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And within 20 minutes, it's like, yeah, you know what? We need to do a show together. And I captured that screenshot of
Yeah.
you smiling without you even
Yep.
knowing.
Yep.
And there's a lot that went on today, just so
Yeah.
everybody is aware. And we'll be fully transparent moving forward. But it's like we cared enough to take a pause without backlash, without make wrong, without pointing fingers.
Mm-hmm.
That what we had is worth building upon, and there's a lot of we balance each other out when we're talking about an issue, right?
Right.
But at the same time, it's like what we talked about today. I don't. It was different, but it was also necessary
Yeah.
because it got to the heart of and I think that I've communicated with Lynn several times backstage where it's just like I'm having an anxiety attack today. My depression is at an all-time high, and it's no excuse, but I don't want to take out what would happen on somebody that had nothing to do with it, right?
Right.
And so acknowledging that is very important, and sometimes if we have our listeners that are suffering from a condition or whatever, sometimes it can be debilitating just to get through the day. And you don't want to show that because it's not about me. It's
Right.
about the listeners. It's about how we can move the needle for them. And so it's been a very it's been a day of introspection, to say the
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
It has not been a day of blame, excuses, pointing fingers, any of that, but just really humbling myself to come to a place of if I caused any harm to anybody, it was not intentional.
Yeah.
I just and obviously the way that people communicate, if one word can throw off an entire message, you know, it's almost like you kind of disregard how you know somebody, but then if you've never talked to them and obviously that's both sides, right?
Right. Right.
So
And we, yeah, and I thank you for all that because it basically is the um what we went through was real shit. I mean, there's
yep,
your side that's right, there's my side that's right, there's whatever, but the point is that if I allow you to not acknowledge me the way I acknowledge you,
right,
then I'm saying that's okay. And I'm not okay with that anymore.
right,
I have to teach my daughters that, all the hell they went through because I didn't speak up. I can speak up now.
right,
And, again, and to find a guy that's a man enough to care enough to listen and say, okay, I can respect that because we are all broken. I mean, when you get older, you gone through shit. Yeah, you didn't get there unscathed. And yet, if you see something within somebody, that's and you have a connection, you need to continue. Why are we connected and why did we enjoy
right,
it? And where did even an online co-hosting thing, you can have relationship problems and I guarantee there's no other co-hosts that are airing their laundry like we are right now. And I feel like, this may help other people, especially with the holidays coming through, that if people are going through these things together, that maybe them knowing that taking the chance and communicating your stuff, that you realize, wow, we could have really just both been screw you and
yep,
ended the show and that's it. But and you know what? We might end up talking about this and getting really raw and real and sharing with the public later of these topics. And we may say, shit, Lynn, that was just too much. And maybe we'll say, that's it. Who knows? I'm
right,
not writing that. You're not writing that.
right,
But because I'm not going to try and make you seem like a bad guy and vice versa. But, the story needs to be told from different angles, whatever, but in the light of this is the experience, this is what happened, but this is what we could have done different.
yep,
And knowing that depending on everything you say to somebody, it reflection of you. So that's one of the reasons why I don't spew out. Again, the Miranda rights that I know so well. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can will be held against you. I believe that. So I'm like, I don't want to say that until I'm ready. And you waited a long time, and today was and you were in a good space. You weren't being mean or anything to me. And I felt very comfortable to finally tell you like the whole thing, that I wasn't ever going to bring up, but I was like, you know what? We're in a good place. I might
right,
as well tell them.
right,
And that's what it had to take. It had to take the fact that and now we're just going to spend time away, after Thanksgiving and whatnot, and we're going to have our own little text and things, and hopefully we'll be back the second week in December,
yep,
and pick up and start telling you where we went off the rails. And I think 'tis the season to help identify those people that are suffering with the same situations we were, because they're real couple, real business, real real things that people, they're potholes, like Jerry said, that we
yep,
fall into, that until you fall in them, then you're cautious to realize, shit, I don't want to have that fall again.
hmm,
So it takes a derailment to actually set you straight of where a problem was.
right,
And I think that that's where we're at now. We are at a peace, and we did and I think, I know I personally will share some of the little things I said or we said, and I know you'll do it on your own, and then
hmm,
we're just going to come to the minds and talk about them. We are probably going to tease you a little bit by not telling you specific things, but we will tell you, we will tell you that there were problems, issues, and we both could have said "f you," and we didn't. We didn't.
yep,
We were saying, why are we doing the show? Because we want to help people. So if we
yep,
want to help people, we have to be honest. And today, really, that show was just you could see I was all over the place, and I rewatched it and I was like, wow. And I
yep,
noticed I didn't smile, and I was like, oh man, that's a give. I tried really hard, but if you know me and you watch that, I really had issues today. So we
right,
just wanted to make this little notice separate in case you didn't see the, tips on getting out of the rut row. um I just wanted to be this on Facebook and everywhere, is that this is a holding notice statement, little flag. And again, I want to apologize on the show today. I was like, and do you want to add anything, Brian? I was like, I don't ever talk to you like that.
Right.
But
No.
that was I was very upset today, and it just came to a head, and we did spend 3.5 hours talking about it. I am in a better place, can enjoy the weekend and Thanksgiving, but we are taking a break from each other because we need to leave space for this not to happen again.
Yeah.
And we're going to want to come back and tell you guys why we weren't getting along and what things were happening that weren't authentic. And if you watch today's show, you can really see that I didn't even have our real and raw with Lynn up on the banner today. I mean,
Right.
I was like, what am I doing here?
And I think that there's a lot of lessons to be learned out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that there is a way to communicate and be civil with somebody without, whatever happened, right?
Yeah.
But it's like if you keep digging in the dagger and assume no responsibility, no ownership, right? Because, and we talked about reverse engineering, right?
Right.
Whatever somebody's up to in this case is to share content for us to be on the same page, for us to represent each other well, and represent everything that Lynn's doing with network and all the big dreams that she has for shows and all the different personalities. Is that if you're not in alignment with that,
Right.
it's eventually going to culminate where it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna, it's kind of like a pot where you put it on the slow simmer.
Right.
Eventually it's going to boil and then it's going to boil over. But what that is there's a route to where, however it happens, where you don't feel like you can talk to who your co-host is, or there's some things you can share but you can't be fully transparent. Eventually that's what happens,
Right.
is that
And
if you can't be fully open at all times, you're a disservice to yourself and to your co-host.
right.
You
And
know.
today after the show, I really spilled my guts as far as what I couldn't take anymore. And
Yep.
I went to places I didn't even know I was going to tell him that really bothered me.
Yep.
And I appreciate that he was man enough to actually listen and say, Lynn, you're right. And I'm like, and to realize that what wasn't fair is like he wants recognition, acknowledgement, and blah blah blah, but he wasn't giving it back to me.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. It was a big wake up call because he really didn't mean to do it, but he was still doing it. So, you can't fix what you don't know what you did.
Right.
So anyhow, we went long enough here, but I thank you, Brian, for to work this out with me and
Of
spend your
course.
time right now to be here,
100%.
and the fact that I'm sure that it's a Friday night, we don't have that much viewers or whatever, but when they don't see us for a couple weeks, they're gonna wonder where we're at, and I'll be like, just go check it out on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, I want to. Can I share a
Yes,
couple things?
absolutely.
When it comes to the holidays, coming up here will be let's see here. It'll be the 12th anniversary of me recovering from my near-death car accident. And what comes to mind is simply this: is that when I was recovering from my car accident, and it was my dad passed away, all within a 9-month period. I was watching national TV on Black Friday in 2009 and or 2010. And what I realized is like people were trampling over each other to get a gift, right?
Mm-hmm.
To get the doorbuster at 5 a.m. or whatever it was. Obviously, the world has changed a lot because of last year and
Yeah.
the way people buy things now more than ever. But the thing to hone in on is that if you find yourself, and this is to all of our listeners or whoever catches the replay, if you find yourself in a place buying a gift for somebody this holiday season and you're just doing it because it's autopilot, there's really no reason, or if you have an indifference with somebody, right? If there's somebody that you don't get along with, but you feel obligated to buy them a gift, I encourage you to not buy them a gift and do the most difficult thing you can possibly do. And that's to have a conversation with them. Because here's the thing. Are they going to remember the gift that you bought them, or by having them back in your life?
Yeah.
It doesn't, it might be the toughest thing you're going to do, but it's kind of like looking at a mountain that you haven't summited yet. After you've summited and you're looking back at the mountain, you're like, man, I should have did that years ago.
Yeah.
The
And
same
that's
thing
what
applies this year.
that's right. And that's why I think what a blessing that even though we had this powwow today, the fact that we were talking in a rut is the same thing,
Hmm.
is the going through those steps to get out of it, and ownership and the whole 9 yards. I mean, there is a formula, and I didn't give that formula before, and so I'm gonna take this off of here. I'm gonna put this up here super quick, and then I'm gonna play a little video. But let me. Where's my little thing here? So yeah, these were the things as far as way to get out of the rut. Accept it, dig a little deeper, check your goals, start small, and focus. And yeah.
Yeah.
So, but again, like I said, I think the timing was just right, and and everything aligned. And there's a full moon stuff going on. So of course, you got to take all these factors and the elements of that damn big old asteroid landed on us, and it was rumbling today. And I don't know if you'll remember the whole 3-4 hours that we spoke today, Brian, but I think it'll come
I
in little
do.
pieces in the weeks to come. And I want to thank you for making me feel safe to actually be
Yeah.
like that, because from now on, that's who I surround myself with. I surround myself with people that do have compassion, or that are willing to, and that I'm willing to listen to them, and vice versa, and not quit on it. Like I said, we may get over this, and something may happen, and I may say that's it, and I can't, might
Right.
trigger me. But I think the time away, the time out, and reflecting on everything and looking back, I know I will be looking at the videos that we did to some things, and not really so much to point your stuff out,
Yeah.
but to really capture, you know, the things that, quoting myself and quoting you, kind of thing, to make a difference, that it doesn't happen again,
Right.
and it's dead in the water. So
Well, and I think I've been dwelling on it all day, from our conversation, because it was very heartfelt. It was very humbling, but it's magical how it happened.
yeah.
And what I mean by that is not in a negative way. It's just that it was transformative.
Well, you knew that I wasn't coming from anger when I was explaining it neither, so I did
Correct.
need that time.
Yep.
Because I don't know, man, I would have probably been speaking in Spanish to you if I would have, mira que cabrón, blah, blah, blah. Never mind. So, anyways, I know I didn't laugh or smile too much through this, but I am really in a better place today, and I thank him for that. And
Well,
nothing feels worse than being in a relationship where that person makes you feel like you could talk blue in the face.
yeah.
They didn't hear you, they didn't feel you, they don't give a shit, and it's
Yeah.
going to still go on. And
Yeah.
I'm not tolerating that in my network of a TV network with people that I don't feel like I can have their back and they have mine.
Right.
So that's where we're going to
Hmm.
personally do our stuff, and let people know that, yeah, we both effed up, and this is where we're at, and this is where we're going. But
Yeah.
is there anything else you wanted to say, Brian? I'm sorry.
I did no. There's nothing to be sorry about.
Okay.
I just it's just the power of humanity,
Yeah.
the power of loving one. The Lynn, and I've had self love issues for many years.
Yeah. But
You know, and it's
And Brian, let me just say this for everybody out there, is I do know your true heart, and I know where you're coming from, but I'm also older than you, and I've matured from that. And I think if you overcome all this, and you get out of your own way like I've had to, and you can realize that, yeah, we can say poor me, but when we don't think of the other person,
right,
because we've already been poor me,
right,
we that God gave us the reasons of the shit that we went through so that we would be compassionate with others. So
hmm,
instead of digging at somebody when they're down and being an asshole, you know, the thing is to realize, don't be an asshole, because it's going to come back to you,
right,
so again, it's the, I know you don't intend to look like an asshole or be an
right,
asshole, but
yep,
when I pointed things out to you, what would you say you were being?
yep.
an asshole, right?
Yep.
And I mean,
Yep.
and I was like, and I know on video from past shows that I showed, if you watch it, I showed that you were being an asshole about things. And I hate to call you out like that, but it's
Yeah.
just true. And I gave you lots of times like whatever. And I think now you're going to look at it a different way and you're going to see, wow, Lynn was like giving me hints here or whatever. And
Hmm.
there's just times you would shut me off on the air. Like you just didn't hear what I said, but you put your, I got to tell her my point.
Right.
And again, we do get like that because you're like, oh, Lynn triggered something. I want to say this, but maybe I said something else that should have taken that trigger off of that and
Sure.
put it to what we were talking about,
Hmm.
and the perspective. So there's been times we've been disconnected, and that really had hurt me because I was like, he just didn't hear what I said because he wanted to be heard,
Hmm.
And so it's a man thing, it's a girl thing, it's a whatever, and it's not right or wrong here. I'm just glad that we're being human and
Yep.
we're sharing our parts and saying that we do need this break right now because, and anybody that just came on right now, we are, holding our show and we're holding it off for a little bit because
Hmm.
we're evaluating and appreciating and making sure that we never get off the tracks like we did because
Right.
um it was just, and I shouldn't have played that with Brian to say you really don't understand. You're not listening to yourself and you're not understanding what I'm saying to you, but I'm saying it and you're still you still stuck with your way of seeing things. And I think now you'll see those videos and they're going to make a lot more sense to you.
Yeah.
And I hate that I did that to you because that wasn't cool, but it's the cop in me. It's the way
Right.
of it's the way of saying, okay, that's your final answer with me, Brian, because that's your final answer. I believe that to be true. And I'm sorry. I gave you a chance to try many times to rectify it. And you just, well, no, and I'm not gonna get an editor to find all those times, but on your own you'll see it, and that's all that matters. Is I want you to see it for a new pair of eyes
Hmm.
and to see. And then there's times I could see, hey, I wasn't really listening to him, because we are live and doing this stuff. But
Right.
um we will discuss more things that went wrong as we go along because I think that's very important and beneficial for everybody else to see how we grew, how we
Hmm.
handled it, and how we kept an open mind to actually get out of our own position and put it. And then when we used the analogies we did, we
Oh
had some
gosh.
epiphanies, right?
Wow. Oh yeah.
We
Yep.
had some epiphanies today that he couldn't see it, but then it was finally saying, but how would you feel if this? And you're like, wow. So when you move up in your self-development or move up where you're at or where you want to go in life, you realize that we do need to love everybody because everybody successful out there has learned to, one of the things being successful is to forgive and to go on. You can't, you got to come from a loving place. You got to come to know that people are going to look at you and throw darts at you because they don't understand that you went through a lot of hell and you did a lot of wrong, but you did it right because you want to go to the next level.
Right.
And I do believe Brian is going to be my partner and go to the next level with me. But if we don't fix these problems between us now,
Right.
then I will have to say, Brian, sorry, I can't
Hmm.
go there. And I have to do that because, my kids are watching. My kids will watch even after I'm dead. And I need them to understand that I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough then to stand up for myself and stand up for what my morals and my integrity are.
Hmm.
But I'll be damned if I'm going to be around people that they don't appreciate their integrity to be at the level of mine. Because at the end of the day, my philosophy is love because I want to be loved back. Forgive because I want to be forgiven for the things I've done. And for three, the most biggest thing, the Bible even says, judge not ye not be judged. So that's like the integrity. When I start getting off my tangents and blah, 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 what you speak about, you sticks to you. So that's why I'm careful about what I say about other people. But I do respect you and thank you for the time you gave me today.
Yeah.
And the show we did earlier today, you're gonna see that I was really upset and I couldn't smile. I realized I wasn't being my authentic self, and I was just, and that's the old Lynn. And I've recreated myself many times in life, and I'm doing it again. And I'll be damned if I'm going to be petty because at the end of the day, and we had that hardcore, I said, Brian, I don't even know what you think about me. If I died tomorrow, whatever. And we had that hardcore, and we'll talk about that later. But the bottom line is I'm gonna let Brian know every day that I appreciate him and I care about him, but I'm not gonna be treated that way. So
Yeah.
I think, and thank you for saying, okay, I respect you and I'm gonna make better. So in time we're gonna see that we
Well, and
both can.
I think, that there's a turning point as well,
Mhm.
by committing to making sure that we're in each other's worlds.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because it's, especially if you're going to be on a show and it's kind of like, well, the best analogy I can think of now is like improv, right?
Yeah.
Is whatever you do with that person up on stage, it's like you'd hope that you'd have some rapport with them.
Yeah.
It's going to be a better scene if you do.
Right.
So it's like, what are you going to do in advance to make sure that you're not showing up blind with that person?
Right.
And for me today, there was blind spots that were revealed to me, and we all don't know what we don't know. But if you're
You're
willing,
using my old words. You finish it. You don't know what you don't know
you
until you
don't know
don't.
what you don't know. But if you're willing to, number one, acknowledge that and commit to that,
Hmm.
we're all students of this world that we live in.
Right.
But at the same time, it's being a student has its ups and its downs,
Yeah.
and you can't have the ups without the downs.
Absolutely. That
You
is
know.
such is life. But the hardcore is and I told you, and I hopefully you're gonna, I've been coaching you for a long time, and I think you'll probably teach this shit after I'm dead and gone. That's fine. But like I told you, there's a lot of people don't understand how to express themselves because of their past.
Yep.
And that's okay. But
Yep.
to tell people beforehand, you know, I may not be saying this the right way, and I'm not saying this to hurt you, but this is how I feel. And I don't know how to articulate where you're going to understand it. That person will, for a minute, say, okay, um, they're worried to tell me something. And it is funny because sometimes I am just sassy and this is and I'm brash too and stuff like that. And then I realize, oh wait, they don't understand that I came from I'm from Long Island. I mean, that's just the way we talk. But again, when people don't realize where your intentions are, they can take it wrong.
Yep.
And if you don't, so when you're showing out of respect that you're saying, "Are you freaking kidding? That's nuts." They're not being mean. They're saying it with passion and love. And I do when I tell stories, people say, "Lynn, you're getting really excited." I'm like, "No, it's because I love because if I could sing really whatever, you would see it in my singing too. Like it comes from a passion of it doesn't come from a hurt place anymore. It comes with the
Right.
passion of don't be as stupid or dumb with this like I was, and so we're all misunderstood for something, for
Yep.
just breathing.
One
And
hundred
I mean,
percent.
and so just saying, "Hey, I'm not reading at the rate you are, but can you listen to me for a minute or can you slow down?" It just gets people to know that you might have sounded like an asshole, but you really weren't being an asshole. When you acknowledge that you're frustrated because you don't know how to share it, I think that person's just as frustrated. But when they realize, oh, really, you thought that, and then they can clear it up for you,
Right.
nothing feels better to say, because like they say, right? When you say, oh, I got a dumb question, that person sincerely says, hey, no question is dumb. And they mean that by saying, it'd be dumb if you didn't ask me the question, but you're asking a question. You can appreciate somebody saying, this might sound dumb, but can I ask this question? And then
Mm-hmm.
it eases them and you because they're like, okay, so they're not sure, but I'm thankful that they're willing to tell me that they think it's a dumb question. And they might say, and you could say, you know what, that was a dumb question, but I'm glad you asked,
Yeah.
you know? So, there's a lot of caution signs out there of, being politically correct or insulting this person or that person. It goes the same thing with having humanity on you and saying, something's bothering me about you, but I can't really discuss it now. And,
Right. Right.
and so again, I think our discussion today and me being upset about it in the 3.5 hours we talked and the fact that we've come to this point of we're taking a break right now and we'll let you guys know when we're back, then that's
Yeah.
great. I have the little video that we used to use in an intro video, which by the way, this intro video does remind you that we do have a great connection. We do love to laugh, and we are sincere with each other. And I think one of them in there, Brian, you're going to notice that one of says, what date? What date? It was about my book. So you'll see that in there, my reaction. So you guys, thank you so much for being here, watching this. If you got this far, if you didn't, I understand. I have a feeling that a lot of people will watch this in the replay, because when we come back and we start talking about the problems and the reason why we're not having a show, I think people are going to be like, oh shit, I need to rewind, because I know I do that stuff too. So there's going to be a lot of hidden innuendos, but it won't be until we return that we'll really tell you the rest of the story on why we derailed. So for now, God bless. Happy Thanksgiving. Love you, Brian.
Love you too, Lynn. Happy Thanksgiving.